What's up, everybody? Hope y'all are doing good. So, y'all, I feel like a lot of people that are not part of the gay community, I feel like most of them think that all gay people are like super liberals and like complete leftists and, just ultra Democrats. I don't think they realize that there are gay conservatives, gay Republicans out there. Which, I know for a fact, though, or I used to be one, and I know a lot of people who still are. And even within like our own community and our own groups, we still, we fight. It's Republican versus Democrat, left versus right. I'm wrong. You're wrong. I'm right. Blah, blah, blah. A lot of that goes on within our own community, and just the division is absolutely, it's ridiculous. The comments that I see under some of my videos about, people automatically assume that I am a conservative person. I think it's because of the accent, and I talk about my upbringing and where I'm from. I grew up very, very conservative. So I get a lot of hate sometimes under my comments. People automatically assume that, oh, he's a stupid, hillbilly conservative. And that's not true. However, in my past, I used to be conservative. I understand the mindset that a lot of them have because I used to be that way. Because like I said, I grew up in a very reserved, kind of just very conservative small town in South Carolina, up in the Appalachian Mountains. And that's just a very conservative community in general. And I had never been anywhere else, y'all, until I was like 25. I finally was able to venture out of the South. So my whole world was South Carolina. Just anything that I heard about other parts of the country or the world was just completely just on the news or on social media, or just things that I heard out and about from people. So my perspective on the world was very, very limited. And finally, when I was able to get out, I got married. I married someone that lived in Missouri, and, he actually was very much a liberal, very much a Democrat. And so actually when we met, we had completely different perspectives on stuff. And just over time being around him and, kind of listening to how he felt and being around new people and in new environments, my perspective, it changed. And I, very much gravitated more towards a liberal point of view of things, because I kind of was able to get out into the world and see things from a new perspective. But, I also know people who come from a very, Democrat, liberal family, but they decided, they feel they are more conservative. They lean that way. And, the thing is, y'all, it's okay to be different. Like, we should not be tearing each other down because of different points of view on things. And it's like people automatically want to label stuff as evil just because you don't agree with it, or because you don't understand it, or just because it's something that you don't feel aligns with you. You automatically want to call it evil, toxic, call people narcissists. I get like, it's just people put these harsh ass labels on other people that they don't even know because of certain political views and social views, blah, blah, blah. And, the thing is, like, with me being more, liberal, and my family is a lot more conservative, I have a lot of people in my family, and this is what I grew up around, y'all, that being gay was not right. That's not the way you should live, and that it's a sin, blah, blah, blah. But as I've gotten older, I used to be very bitter about it. I had a lot of hard feelings towards them about it. But as I've gotten older, you realize people believe in certain things and have certain points of view because of their environment, how they were raised, who raised them, their age. It's things differ for each individual. And it's like, we don't understand that. Like, I look at a lot of my family, my older generation, they come from the Deep South, extremely evangelical Christians. My grandparents, my grandfathers were preachers, and South Carolina was all they knew. They didn't have social media. You know, they didn't have any money. They were poor. They didn't get on airplanes and travel places. And the only kind of traveling they did was, you know, they would take a weekend trip to the beach, like in their car or something. But so they were never given an opportunity to get out into the world. And all they knew of the world was what they read in the newspaper, maybe something they saw on the news, you know, and all this was before social media. So they were they were still limited then on what they saw. So, you know, of course, they're not going to have people that grow up like that are not going to have the same perspective as somebody else who was able to get out into the world and venture out and, you know, really meet all these different people from different backgrounds. You know, my family comes from a very kind of secluded area, if you think about it. You know, up in the mountains like that, people have been there for generations after generations. It's like people don't really move in, but people also don't really move out. You know, most of people that are from there kind of keep that pattern going, and that's what, you know, most of my family, that's what they chose to do. They did what they thought they should do. I did not do that. You know, I broke out of that pattern, and I could have stayed in it if I wanted to, but I was given the opportunity, and I was able to venture out, and I was able to see the world, you know, from a new perspective and you know, through my own eyes, instead of being told, you know, what everything was and how everyone is and how everything should be. You know, I was able to make my own judgment. But, you know, a lot of people out there are not given that opportunity. They don't have the option to get out into the world or have the, you know, the financial resources to venture out and see all these cool places. You know, I was very lucky. So it's like when I am having a discussion with my family, y'all, and we're on totally different sides of the spectrum on whatever we're talking about, whether it be politics, religion, you know, social issues. You know, they may have the complete opposite view of me, but it's like there is still a part of me that I know where they come from. I know how they were raised. You know, I know they believe what they believe in is really truly what they feel is right. Even if I don't look at it that way, I don't see it that way, they feel like they are doing what is right, and all they are acting off of is, you know, their perspective, their experiences in life. You know, I don't think they're drawing these conclusions and their ideas from an evil place, as in, you know, having an intention to, you know, destroy the world or, you know, hurt a bunch of people. You know, that's really how they view things. And, you know, you have to look at people like that are different than you, no matter how mad they may make you, you know, by not agreeing with what you agree with. You have to look at them with somewhat of a view of respect. You know, yes, there are some people that are harder to respect than others. Some people are just complete assholes, and I know that far too well. Some people are just nasty, mean, just horrible personalities. And you know, people like that, I generally just, you know, I try to stay away from. I just, you know, kind of keep to myself. But, you know, for the most part, I always try to look at someone else's ideas and perspectives through a lens of just having respect for them, simply because they are human. You know, I don't really like to fall into these extreme categories, really, of, you know, being on one end or the other, being ultra conservative or, you know, ultra liberal, because I feel like when we place ourselves and label ourselves in those categories, that automatically makes us look at the opposite end as bad, or the opposite end as they're incorrect on their ideas. And, you know, to me, that fuels and drives like a lot of hate between groups of people. And unfortunately, that goes on in the gay community as well. I mean, I see a lot of it under a lot of my videos. If politics or anything, you know, they get brought up or mentioned, I mean, in the comments down there, I automatically see it. You know, I have like these liberal gay people that, you know, they automatically, like I said, assume that I'm conservative. So they give me like all these nasty, mean comments telling me, you know, like I'm stupid, you know, dumb hillbilly. And the thing is, they don't even know me. Like, that is so far from the truth. But at the same time, if you are a gay conservative, like, that is okay. That if that is truly what you believe and what you stand for, and you feel that is for the better of society, then, you know, I have respect for that. You know, even if you are not what everyone else wants you to be, that is okay. Because guys, you know, we sit and judge each other like that, but I look at my life, you know, and a lot of you feel the same way and probably have went through the same shit that I did. You know, we have been judged for so long and so harshly by people for being gay and for being who we are. You know, why the hell are we going to do that to other people, you know, when that has impacted our lives so much, especially people within our own community? You know, I don't understand that. It goes right over my head. You know, we want to complain and whine about all this that has happened to us, but we don't want to have any compassion for anyone else or for each other. And, you know, and I don't feel like that's going to put us in a very good place as a society in general. You know, that's just going to fuel more hate. So, you know, I try to have a perspective, y'all, that everyone deserves respect. Everyone deserves love. Even, you know, some of them, they may seem like they do not deserve it at all. You know, and I understand some people are hard as hell to love. But, you know, if we want to make the world a better place, and especially within the gay community or any community that you're a part of in general, you know, we have to start looking at things through a loving perspective, because that is the only way that all this fighting and bickering and bitching and all that is ever going to come to an end. You know, nobody will ever all agree on the same thing. That's impossible. But, you know, we all can respect each other and have compassion, and, you know, and just show empathy towards each other, and, you know, just a sense of love. So, guys, thank you for listening to that rant. You know, I made my last video I made about Charlie Kirk. You know, the comments on that really got me a lot because of just some of the mean things that were said towards me and just towards other people. And, you know, it was sick, and it really, you know, it pissed me off a little bit. So that's why I got on here and made this video, just to speak to everyone, you know, who watches this, whether you're conservative, liberal, whatever, you independent, whatever the hell you are. You know, it is okay to be that. Do not feel bad for what you believe in. Do not feel bad for what you fight for. Just do everything out of love, and generally you will always get good results from that. At least I've learned that in my life. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see y'all shortly with another video, probably in about a week or so. Bye, guys. Thank you.